Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the playing of
the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast
with your host, the 2023 IBWAA Podcast Host of the Year, Jana, and her big brother, Jeff. Back on track, Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. The League Championship Series are over, and we're waiting on the World Series to start. So lots to talk about there. A classic World Series matchup. We'll get to that in a little bit. First, how did we get there? But before we talk about that, I think it's only right that we start off with sad news that came out of the baseball world this week, and that is Fernando Valenzuela has passed away at the age of 63. Actually, almost 64. He was a week away from his 64th birthday, and he may be gone, but Fernandomania will live on forever because everybody who was around in 1981 remembers it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando Valenzuela changed, I'd say he changed the landscape of baseball, and especially for Los Angeles, the Dodgers and their fan base, and just Southern California in general. I mean, I think of Vin Scully when he got that one of his no-hitters, and it was, if you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.
Yep.
And when I heard the news, I thought about the relationship that Fernando Valenzuela and Tommy Lasorda had, and just the reunion that they're having up in Blue Heaven. So yeah, sad day for obviously for the Dodgers fans, but just for baseball, because he was a huge catalyst in I think making baseball going beyond borders.
Right. He didn't just energize Southern California, he energized all of the country in Mexico, and honestly affected, he's like one of those players you had to go see. He played, most of his career he played with the Dodgers. He did spend a season with the Angels, one with the Orioles, Philadelphia. He was a Philly. He was a Padre. So he played with all three Southern California baseball teams, pitched for all three, and then ended up his last year, he pitched in St. Louis. He pitched between San Diego and St. Louis in his final year. And then, of course, he'd been in the broadcast booth up until just a few weeks ago, where he then abruptly said, I'm stepping away, having some health issues. He was hospitalized. Not a lot of people really realized the extent, and the family's never talked about what it is, that the health issues.
Yeah, you could see when you did see him, he did look gaunt and different kind of appearance. And so it's like, well, maybe something's going on there. Not too sure. So obviously there was, but yeah, going to the broadcast booth, and which was huge. And I think the Dodgers did something that they should have done a long time ago, but they did it last year, which was retire his number. Normally, when they retire a number, it's only for players who have been enshrined in the Hall of Fame. But that,
with the exception of Jim Gilliam.
Yeah. And so for them to do that, the 34 for Valenzuela, to retire that number, nobody had worn that number since he worn it. He had worn it. So it's important that happened.
And if you don't know what happened, he burst onto the scene. He had come up as a late season call up and pitched in 10 games in at the end of 1980. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until 81 where he gets moved up to pitch opening day after Jerry Royce, who was the had been tagged to be the opening day starter, and he goes on to win 8 straight. Throws I believe in his first game he throws a shutout, and goes on to win his first 8 games. And when asked if he could win all of his games, he said, "It'll be hard, but it's not impossible." And that kind of was his whole thing. And that's what the people of Southern California, Dodger fans, side fans, Latinos, they all grabbed hold of that. He was somebody different. And he breathed through his eyelids, if you believe what was in Bull Durham was, Anyway, that first year out, he was a Cy Young Award winner, the Rookie of the Year. He was 5th in MVP voting, and he was an All-Star for the first time of 6 times.
And I think he's the only player that is ever received Cy Young Award winner award and Rookie of the Year the same year.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think anybody else has done that. And he got the Silver Slugger.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was pretty good at the plate.
Yeah, he was. I think they said as a pinch hitter, which he did like 19 times, he was batting like 386 or something like that. So pretty crazy. Made his debut at 19 years old. They signed him in 78, and he was a Dodger in 1980. And was the MVP in 1981 World Series as well. So he, like I said, we say farewell. He will be during the first game of the World Series. They will honor him. Rob Manfred had already mentioned that the MLB will honor him, and I know the Dodgers are going to honor him throughout the World Series. All right. And there I gave that part away. We don't even have to do that part of the show now.
But, right. Like, because nobody knew. Only us. We're the only
ones that knew. We're breaking that.
We were opening the envelope.
It is kind of interesting because the last, when that year,
yep,
Fernando pitched in the World Series was also against the Yankees.
Yeah. And that was the last time that they faced each other until
right. Now. So we'll talk about the history of that matchup of the Yankees and the Dodgers coming up. But first, how did we get there? Let's start with the ALCS and the Yankees versus the Guardians. What was that? A 5-game series?
Yeah, it was a 5-game series, and it really looked like the Yankees were just gonna walk away with it, with the Guardians not winning any games. The way they came out, game 1, and they started in the Bronx for the 2 games. The Yankees beat them 5-2 in the first game. The second game, they beat them 6-3. And in that first game, the Guardians just didn't look like the matchup was not like they were undermatched. Not undermatched doesn't even sound right, but they had like
the Yankees may have looked undermatched. The
they were
Guardians
overmatched. I was like, that doesn't sound right. 5 wild pitches and 7 batters were walked by Cleveland. And one of the things throughout this series is I think you can't have too much of a good thing. And that would be using, which I think anybody would, but using Emmanuel Clase, who was spectacular during the regular season and against the Yankees, not so great.
They had the kryptonite, as it were.
Yeah, and I think some of it too was just overuse. I mean, it makes sense that you're gonna go to your best guy, but they see him enough. They figure you out. So
Yeah, right. And then I think the biggest thing, obviously, in this series, and it shows towards the end, a guy who hit 233 during the regular season, was out injured at different times. Really didn't, he had like an under his WAR was under 1. It was a 0.7 WAR. Just blew up and really led the team right when you needed him to. He became Kike Hernandez of the postseason for the Yankees. And that's Giancarlo Stanton.
Right. Well, and you look at Giancarlo Stanton was the ALCS MVP. And if you look at his stats, you're like, really? He's the MVP. However, yeah, he had a 222 batting average during this series. And he was 4 for 18. But all 4 of those hits were home runs. And they were all impactful home runs. It wasn't like the Yankees had a huge lead and he hit a home run. They were timely home runs, I guess you could say. And he drove in 7 and he had 16 total bases. So the good thing, though, about this ALCS, which is very much a contrast to the NLCS, are the scores. And they had 2 games that went into innings, which is like everybody wants that in postseason. I mean, I don't know if you want 18 innings like we saw, but in 2018, where we both were like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. And then neither one of us ever went to bed.
He stayed up until the game was over.
Texting. Yeah. But I think the Guardians, especially, probably one of the best baseball calls you're ever going to hear in the Spanish language was from Game 3 when, is it Johnson? How do you say his first name? Kinsey?
John Kinsey, yeah.
John Kinsey, Noel. They call him Big Christmas. He hit a 2-run pinch hit home run with 2 outs in the 9th, and that tied the game. And that, I should put it. You go find it, on the internet, because it is one of the best. Even if you don't know Spanish, it doesn't matter.
Well, there's a part there you're going to understand when you know his name.
Yes.
And what his nickname is.
You'll know that.
Go check that out.
Yeah, check it out.
That's the tease. Go check it out. It is if you've ever heard like a soccer game or, and the call when they score the goal, this was that exciting.
Yes.
And, and more.
And more. Yeah. And more. It had like the sprinkles, the cherry, the whipped cream, all of that on top. And in that game too, then David Fry, who has been I guess the postseason kind of a hero for the Guardians because he did some things in the DS, the division series. He hit a 2-run shot in the 10th. So the Guardians, they go home to Cleveland and they win that game, but they do it in innings and they win 7-5. So you're like, okay, they're at home. They've got 2 more games at home. Can they win at least, 2 of those games and see if they can get back to the Bronx? But it was not to be. After that exciting game, the Yankees go on in the 4th game. They beat the Guardians 8-6. And in the 5th game, another innings game and an exciting game, tied up 2-2. But Juan Soto hits a 3-run home run in the 10th to give the Yankees the ALCS.
Yep. And, the Guardians had held on to that 2 runs, or 1 run for quite a while, scored a second one in the 5th, and then gave up 2 for them to catch up. And like you just said, Juan Soto, I think right there, if you didn't already think that the Yankees are going to give him a or offer him a big contract in his free agent year coming up, I think that put it away right there. I think Juan
Yeah.
Soto is going to be a Yankee for a while to come. The other day I saw maybe 14 years, $525 million or something like that, I think is what I saw.
Well, and Jazz Chisholm was like $700 million. Like, well, I don't know about that, but it could be close, but I don't know that it would be.
Yeah, there's a question about that. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversations about, about him and probably will become even a bigger conversation after as the World Series goes, depending on how Shohei does versus how Juan does. And of course, actually, it's Shohei versus Judge and Soto in that case, because whatever those guys do, Shohei has to. It's not going to be Shohei and Mookie. They've said that, but they're going to be. Is Juan Soto going to make the money that Shohei's making? Only if he takes just $2 million a year.
Right.
And then, and the same thing, Aaron Judge, who is the presumptive MVP of the AL, is he going to do this? Even he's saying Shohei's the best.
Yeah.
So
I want to say this ALCS that the Guardians, even though they end up losing the series, they played the Yankees. I think they played the Yankees well. I mean, when especially you look at the scores and the 2 innings games, it was exciting. They had some exciting moments in there. I don't know if there was any, Stephen Vogt being a rookie manager. Were there any rookie manager, mistakes? I'm sure, but I think there's always mistakes regardless of if you're a veteran manager or not, because it's baseball. You just don't know what's going to happen. I think we'll see that in the NLCS too. But I think the Guardians, I don't think they're going to go anywhere next. And what I mean by that is they're going to still be looking to be the top of the AL Central and get back to where, wanting to finish what they started from this season.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever will, based on a couple things. They spent a lot less money, about a third of what the Yankees spent. And that becomes a big thing in the conversation about the World Series.
Yeah.
There were at times that they looked overmatched.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where it was like, they couldn't compete. And then other times they competed, and they looked like a team that would give the Yankees a run for their money. In the end, like I said, it just didn't. They couldn't overcome the Yankees in most of those, because even though they only lost by, the most was 3 runs. They had 2 games where it was 2 runs. The first game and the 5th game were both the same score.
Yeah.
And then the game they won by 2. They lost by 2. And at home, they lost by 2, 2, and 3. So, they'd come back towards the end, it felt like, and you thought, okay, can they do it? They just didn't really have what they needed to push them over the top. Even with the players they had. Stephen Kwan didn't have quite the same series he had in the division series. Still was there, but not hitting, 3-4 hits a game. Lane Thomas wasn't really there in this series either. So they needed a couple more things to happen that didn't. And they needed Emmanuel Clase to be the roadblock to the Yankees, and it just didn't happen. So, all right. So the world's like, if you're a Yankees fan, everybody's like, yep, okay, Yankees spent the most money. They get to go. And actually, now when you look at it, the top three teams money-wise, Mets, Dodgers, Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how, and then the Guardians were way at the bottom. So of course they lost. They didn't spend any money.
Because that's how it works.
Yeah, because when you spend a whole bunch of money, so how many teams that have spent a lot of money didn't go? The Yankees spent money, previous years. When was the last time they were in the World Series? Like 2009?
Yeah.
And then, the Dodgers spent money and they go to the playoffs every year. But do they win? Not really. 2020 they won, but we know that was a whole different program. So,
it was a different program, but it still is a World Series win.
I didn't say it wasn't a World Series win. I'm just saying that was different.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
because of the way that season was.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Let's look at it there's two things that we should look at it here. If we're going to talk about 2020, is that it was 60 games. And then the Dodgers essentially got to go camp out in the same place throughout the playoffs for the most part, with the exception of the first round. And then they went to Arlington and they never left. So it was a little bit different from that standpoint because nobody was there. But at 60 games, it's different because everybody should have been strong.
Yeah. If you think about the normal season, that's...
Yeah, but, they didn't even Anthony Rendon played like most of the season that year. He played like 52 games.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, everybody's looking at that. Okay, so Yankees, it's either going to be a freeway series or it's going to be the dreaded Dodger-Yankee series that everybody wants, but nobody will say they want. Only MLB wants it because they're going to make, tons of money off of it. And then, go buy you're just paying for your rings. Well, they paying for them anyway. So what difference does it make? And if you root for a team that doesn't want to spend money, you tell me how many people wanted to see like a Brewers Guardians World Series?
How about White Sox, Colorado Rockies?
Oh, there it is right there. For the way people were talking, that would have been it.
Yeah.
And Rockies and anybody, Rockies and Twins, anybody out of the Central.
Yeah.
With the exception of the Guardian.
Right. Yeah.
But even then, imagine if it was Guardians Rockies. It's like,
Yeah. I don't know.
So you've got like 6 or 7 potential Hall of Famers on 2 teams. You've got the 2 biggest markets. Yes, they both have high payrolls, but how do you get those? And it's not like they just went out and bought a whole bunch of players from, went out there and spent all the money to get them. The Padres didn't have to give up Juan Soto.
No.
He still had another year. They traded him.
Mm-hmm.
The Marlins didn't have to trade Giancarlo Stanton. All these things that could have happened. Actually, Giancarlo was a free agent because we wanted him out here in LA to be a hometown boy. But some of these guys that get traded, Jazz Chisholm, Marlins could have kept him. Obviously he's not a potential Hall of Famer, I don't think.
No, but
so there's a lot of people that are, I think I saw a map today. It's like people are going to be watching the World Series. There's a little dot for the LA area, a little dot in New York, and then the rest of the country is yellow. And then that one was all the people who say they're not going to watch, but secretly will.
Right.
Why is it such a big, I can't watch that. It's only about the money. It's always only been about the money. Yeah. Welcome to the party.
Yeah. Well, I think if we look just at the NLCS, the very different between, and you mentioned the Mets were right up there in the top 3 of spending, and we've talked about that. But very different scores, very different games, where out of whereas the Guardians and the Yankees had 2 innings game, and no innings games in the NLCS, but there were 2 shutouts by the Dodgers of the Mets, a 9-0 in that first game, and in the third game, 8-0. And then the fourth game, it was 10-2. And then the Mets come back because they have to win and to keep going. They win 12-6. And a funny thing is the 6th game, the Dodgers win 10-5, but it was at one point it was 7-4. And I was like, we got to get insurance runs. We got to get more runs, because the Mets had come back against the Brewers. They had in dramatic fashion. They did it during the regular season. And it was fun to watch the series and not hate the other team. Like, not, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like Francisco Lindor is a villain.
No.
Or Pete Alonso is, a villain. I didn't.
Right.
I did think it was funny. There were a lot of people in Grimace costumes, and there is a shot of, I think it was probably the 8-0 game, and this guy's dressed up like Grimace, and he's drinking a beer, and they show it, and I think it was in the after the game, the with Poppy and A-Fraud and Jeter, and he's like, oh no, Grimace is an alcoholic. So, like, it's just like fun, kind of. It was a fun series, at least for Dodger fans. But I will tell you, I was nervous the whole time, and I am still nervous. Like, I'm excited, but nervous. I'm always nervous. I'm always on the edge of my seat. I look at my Fitbit sometimes when I'm watching these games, and my heart rate is 120 plus because of whatever the situation is. But I don't know how much in the second game. The Dodgers lost this game. It was 7-3. And I did send you an SOS text. Like, maybe you should start watching. Maybe it'll turn the tide. And you were like, no.
No, because I was going to stay with it. I had to stay with it. But the fact that you texted me,
I know,
I blamed you.
Yes.
For the loss, because maybe they could have come back.
I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers.
Know that they would have, but
well, and I think the second game in particular, it was a bullpen game. The first game, Jack Flaherty pitched, and the Dodgers did tie a record with the 1966 Baltimore Orioles, who in the World Series, who played the Dodgers, and the Orioles won, but 33 straight scoreless innings. So they tied that record. The next day, it's an afternoon game. It's a bullpen game, but the Dodgers are not going with anybody. They're going to go with Landon Knack, and I think he was going to pitch the bulk. And it's one of those games where I don't want to call it a throwaway game, because I know the Dodgers, of course, they would have liked to have gone in with a 2-0 up on the Mets going into New York. But I think maybe they read the writing on the wall with, Lindor hitting that first home run. And then when they walk Lindor, this is what I was talking about, when they walk Lindor, and then, what's his name? Vientos. Vientos. He hits a grand slam. How many times has that happen? And it doesn't have to be grand slam, but they hit a home run, they get a big hit, because they don't like that. Like, oh, you're going to walk Lindor? All right. And sure enough, he hit a grand slam. So I don't know. Yeah, this game, I broke it because I was like SOS.
Yeah, I was like in the drive-through at Jack in the Box getting a cold drink. And you texted me, you're like, maybe you should start watching. I was like, nope, not gonna happen.
I won't do it. You can't force me.
The next game, you didn't text me.
I did not.
I didn't and I didn't watch.
Yeah.
And they won.
Yes, they did.
I was like, all right. It really was your fault.
It really was my fault. Yeah. I was desperate. I was like, because I really did want the Dodgers to be, obviously to win, but to go 2-0, to go to New York, I thought was a better case scenario, right?
It was a much better scenario.
It's like a duh,
Because even though during the regular season, see, this is the thing. The Dodgers and the Mets played all their games April and May.
Right.
The Mets were a terrible team in April and May.
Yeah, they had 100 people show up. I don't know. But.
Yeah, they weren't, but nobody wanted to. They played poorly. You were like, okay, there's just not going to be their year. Once again, Steve Cohen and all of his millions and billions is not going to come through here.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't take millions and billions. It just took them getting the right pieces. That's what every team. It's a matter of getting the right guys that can do this. The Dodgers are kind of showing that they've got some of the guys they thought were going to be the right guys aren't playing. And most of that's their pitching staff.
Yeah.
But even Freddie Freeman, and we can talk more about that here in a minute, but the Dodgers won 4 of 6. The 2 that they lost at home to them. They swept them at Citi Field.
Well, no, they won 2 at Citi Field and lost the 5th game because they 12-6.
No, I'm talking about the regular season.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not talking about the playoffs. I'm talking about
regular season. That's right. Yes.
So in the regular season, that's okay. Just I probably didn't make that clear, but they played them at home in like late April, and then about a month later they played them in New York, and they swept them in New York. So it's like, well, they played pretty well there, but it was a different team. I thought, okay, if they're 2-0 going to New York, if they were for some reason to get swept in New York, the series still has to come back to LA.
Mm-hmm.
So that I thought would work in their favor. They had to, and when they won one, I think this is where the world went kind of sideways, was that if they'd have lost game 3, Dodger fans still would have thought it was the end of the world, but not like they did with game 5. By losing the 5th game, sure, they're coming back home, but it feels like you've lost your momentum. And people were, out here were just like, this is going to be terrible.
Well, why? And I thought going into New York tied 1-1, I thought the Dodgers have to win at least 2. I didn't expect them to sweep the Mets in New York, because it's like the Mets, you're at home, and most teams, not all teams, but most teams play better at home. And I just thought, well, they're going to at least win 1. So yeah, it wasn't a fun game to watch. But it wasn't a surprise that the Mets won. I mean, the Dodgers did try to come back in that game, but it was Flaherty gave up 8 runs in that game. It was Honeywell who really, he had pitched more innings than he ever had in a single game, 4 2/3, and he was the one that really he helped get them to they lose the game, but he gets them to game 6 because it's a bullpen game for LA. And Flaherty started game 5, but then in game Brent Honeywell was able to give them a lot of innings, so they didn't have to use up a lot of their bullpen arms, which was huge for game 6.
Yeah, even Max Muncy said, he and after they won it all, Rick Honeywell said, what did I tell you? Max asked him. He said, "You told me you just won us game 6." And for me, I like the idea of you always the game that you're playing is the game.
Mm-hmm.
Every game's an elimination game.
Yeah.
So you play it all out, but in that game they didn't, and it works out. Everybody, all of us, second guessing Dave, who
always,
when Dave's left alone. In the past, you could always tell when the front office got involved, and I think in the game that Landon Knack pitched, the front office got involved.
Yeah, I think.
And
I think you're right.
And I think that they left him alone, and he did what he wanted to do. He did a good job.
Yeah.
I think if they had lost to San Diego or even to the Mets and not gone to the World Series, they probably would have fired him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because somebody's got to start taking blame for it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think there were a lot of, Dave Roberts made a lot of good decisions and a lot of good moves. And I mean, and even you asked me about the lineup for game 6, and Michael Kopech started that game. And Michael Kopech is, to me, 8th inning guy, even a 9th inning guy, 7th, 8th, 9th inning guy. And I was like, he's starting? That doesn't seem right. But I don't know anything because it worked. So
did it?
Well,
did it really? I mean, because I was listening on the radio. I wasn't at home for a few minutes, listening to the radio, and by the time I get back, it's 1-0. He couldn't hit the strike zone.
He was
four
struggling.
Four straight balls to who leads off? Who was leading off? Lindor. He's got 4 straight balls. He just had a tough time starting out that game.
Well, I think for one, to me, maybe it didn't work out as far as he gave up a run. But I don't think he doesn't belong in a starting role. That's not where you normally find him. But I guess it worked out in the sense that after that, the rest of the bullpen came in, and for the most part, they kept the Mets. They kept the Mets where they weren't able to score as often, and definitely the Dodgers offense was huge in this game.
Well, what happened is what needed to happen is that after a tough first inning for Kopech, he walks 2.
Mm-hmm.
4 straight pitches to Lindor to start it out. But then Kasparis comes in and doesn't give up any runs. He does walk one guy and gives up 2 hits, but he gets out of that inning without giving up any runs. And then from there, Banda, Brazier, and Hudson and Trinan all give up a run. Trinan's wasn't so bad because they already had a pretty good lead. But, it's kind of funny is that when I got home when I went out and ran that errand, I come back, like I said, I'd been listening to the game on the radio. I was like, all right, I'm not going to watch because they're getting beat. And when I got in there, Blanca had it on, and I had said I'd probably watch it because our superstition had ended.
Right.
Because we didn't, game 5, I didn't watch. You didn't text me. They still lost. So, okay, I'll go back and I'll watch. But I was reluctant. And then she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to watch?" Well, in the time frame that I was gone, between the time that I turned off the radio, sat there for a second in the car and thought about what am I going to do? Shohei singled, Teoscar singled, and NLCS MVP Tommy Edman double scoring both those guys. It's 2-1 by the time I get in the house.
Yeah.
And so I sit there and I think about it, and I do other things around the house. And then finally sit down and I start watching and kind of half paying attention, half not, because I'm still not sure.
Right.
And then, they end up, doing what the one thing that I had heard all day about, and I thought as well, was that with Sean Manaea,
Mm-hmm.
they needed to get to him quick. They needed to rock him and get him, let him stay as long as they want him to stay, but do a lot of damage early.
Yeah.
And they were able to do that, and scoring 2 there in the first, and then in the third they scored 4 more, and they knocked Manaea out, and were able to deal with. Manaea only lasted 2 innings, and then even Edwin Diaz came in. He was the third pitcher in.
Yeah.
At like the 4th inning. And so, Kodai Senga pitched in relief and gave up 3 runs. So they didn't fool around. They, and most of those runs that were scored, so it was 4 in the 3rd inning, the 4 runs, most of those were all were credited to Manaea. Matan came in and to close out that inning for him. But yeah, it was a tough game for him, but the Dodgers did that and they played well. Now the problem is now 5 days or 4 days of sitting around. 5 days of sitting around before the World Series starts.
Well, I think the Dodgers, they had the bye, during the wild card series before the division series. And I think this year they approached it very differently. And I think Max Muncy even talked about this. He said during that time, we were together. We were watching the wild card series. We were working out, but we would play ping pong. We would play air, we're pool, eating together. Yeah. Right. And they were cohesive together. And I think if they continue that throughout as they're waiting to play the Yankees, that same mindset, I think they'll be fine. Plus, obviously it gives your pitchers, the bullpen in particular, rest. And then Freddie Freeman, his ankle, he didn't play in some of the games. He was on the roster, but he didn't play in some of the games for the NLCS because of his ankle. And he didn't play in game 6, but it just was like, well, his swing just doesn't look right. He's off. And it wasn't that he in some of the games he did contribute, but you could tell he's having a hard time. This is an injury that was 4 to 6 weeks you would be out, maybe even a little bit more. So But they do have some good news coming out of LA saying that things are getting, better. He's been able to rest it, not be on it, not, keep it stabilized, whatever they do. But in fact, I heard that they had a night game, then they had the day game, and because of the extensiveness of with the injury and what they have to do to get him, or what they were doing to get him prepared, that he and one of the trainers, and Freddie Freeman spent the night at Dodger Stadium because it's like hours to get his ankle ready for the game. So for him not to play, that was a good decision, just to get his ankle healed up. And, he's going to be on the World Series roster. But, will his ankle be better than what it was in the division and obviously in the championship series?
So here we go. If the Dodgers win the World Series this year, that will be their 8th title.
Yeah.
If the Yankees win, it will be their 28th title.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, this will be the 12th meeting of the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series. The last time being 1981. We talked about that a little earlier with Fernando. The 2 times prior to that, 77 and 78. The Dodgers lost both of those. Of the series, I think it's 8-3 in the 11 times that they've actually met. The Dodgers have won 3 series, whereas the Yankees have beat them the other 8 times. For the most part, I think, too, I read this is the most, as far as matchups goes, no 2 teams have met in the World Series more than the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Yeah, I think the Yankees and the Giants have been like 7 times, but not close to the Dodgers.
No, so the Dodgers, if you go back to World Series, they played the Red Sox. So they played the Red Sox in the World Series twice. In 1916 versus Babe Ruth, and then then again in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So 102 years later, they played each other. They played the Cleveland team, the Indians, twice in the World Series, and then it's like every time that they played from there, the first time they met up with the Yankees, 41. They played them again in 47, 49, 52, 53. They finally beat them in 55. They played them again in 56 and lost that. Then they played the White Sox. I'm sorry, they only played the Indians once. But then they played the White Sox in 59, their first year as Dodgers in LA. They beat the White Sox in the World Series. They play the Yankees in 63 and win that one. And then the Twins in 65 and the Orioles in 66. They take a break and they play again in 74 versus the A's. We talked about against the Yankees, 77, 78, and then 81. They win, and then they play the A's again. And then it's from 88 to 2017 before they go back in, where they got cheated out of a world championship by the Asterix and MLB. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about them playing Boston. We know they beat the Rays in 2020. So them coming back now, they still have like 3 or 4 pennants they have to win, World Series championships, to move into second place. The Cardinals, I think, have won 11 times. Nobody's going to catch the Yankees.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I guess I get it. It's New York, it's LA. But this is going to be a World Series that has won the first time where you have two players who hit 50 plus home runs in the regular season. And obviously I think this is going to feature, the last time, I guess we say the presumptive MVPs for the AL and the NL, both appeared in the World Series was 2012, the 12 years ago. You've got that going. And just obviously, it's a classic matchup. And from the very beginning of the season, you heard a lot about that. Wouldn't it be, if there was a classic matchup? Instead of, I guess for New Yorkers, the Subway Series would be exciting. But
yeah, but they've had a Subway Series.
Right, I know. But that's
they played each other.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that would be exciting for New Yorkers. I'm not gonna, I'd probably watch a game here or there, but I'm not gonna invest in it because it's, I don't know. If you're a baseball fan, just a fan of the game, why wouldn't you want to watch these two teams play?
Right.
I mean, isn't that what the World Series is about? The best two teams with the best
that's what
players?
I thought, but apparently if you look at Twitter,
no. Well,
White
it's like
Sox,
they
Rockies.
had, right. Well, it's like we
Take
have
the
to
two
have an
worst
underdog.
Okay. So
But why?
if out of the three remaining teams after the Yankees won, the underdog was the Guardians.
Yeah.
And they haven't won in 76 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they've got a lot of underdog-ish stuff going on for them.
Yeah.
It would have been hard to root against them. And had they played a team, if you're, whether you are a Mets fan or a Dodgers fan, if the Guardians are playing and they beat your team, you're going to be like it was with the Cubs. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
They finally
good for
won.
them. Yeah, that's good for them. Right.
Right. And that's the thing that all these people are saying, no, we can't do that because there's nobody to root for here. Well, you know what? If you're a Yankees fan or a Dodgers fan, obviously there's something to root for.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
If you're a baseball fan, there's something to root for. This is a classic matchup. Yes. This is something that MLB, this is a dream matchup for MLB.
Oh, sure.
But like somebody tweeted, if MLB controls all of this, why did they wait 43 years to do it again? What, were we just not ready as baseball fans? We're still reeling from the 1981, World Series that we just weren't ready for it. 43 years later, they finally thought, okay, they're okay. The Yankees fans have healed from that loss. The Dodger fans have calmed down from that win or whatever. It's like, come on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's too much talk about, about the playoffs, how the playoffs are structured now. And how the wild card series are, it used to be one game. One game and that's it. You get it. Now it's 3 games. I mean, it's back to back. You don't move. It's just at the one stadium, whichever who had the bed or record between the two teams. And then they talk about that, and then they bemoan that the wild card and the days off, and then when you get a matchup that is, like you said, hasn't happened in 43 years, and it's classic. I mean, you have to look at the history of the New York Yankees. You had, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle. I mean, it's like that's baseball. And then you have the Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale. I mean, it's like, and then, they moved to LA. That's what every baseball fan should want, regardless of the teams, but there are people who can't get past the fact of the money, which is dumb.
That's always been the way. I remember an old boss of mine. We were talking about something, and I was just talking about baseball. We were talking about baseball, and he goes, "Oh, I stopped watching it because salaries got out of control." And I guess this is kind of like normal for our world. Is like, why does it matter? Number one, why do you hate the players who are making, however much a year, say $15 million a year, when they're not the ones who decided that they would be paid that? They asked for it. Some owner said, yeah, we want you bad enough that we're going to pay you that amount of money. Now, obviously, we can grouse about the fact that after they got that money, they played poorly. But that's a thing to take up with the employer, not the employee. Right. He needs to be talked to about it, and maybe they need to write that in. If you're doing poorly, because back in the old days, you know what? You didn't have a good year last year. I'm knocking you down $1,000 or whatever a year. Read Jim Bouton's book, Ball 4. They did that. Yeah, we're not gonna sign you for that. And I know a lot of that's changed, and the reserve clause is gone, and all of those things that kind of was unfair. But these guys still are making a lot of money, but it's still the owners that are paying all that money. If I walked into my boss at my job, and it doesn't matter what my job could pay minimum wage. But if I walk in and I say, I want $1 million a year, and my boss says, you got it, is it my fault that I make more than my contemporaries do? That they're all making minimum wage, I'm making $1 million a year? No, I went and I asked, and he said, yeah. Who decided that? Just because I asked doesn't mean I made it happen. It just means that I asked.
Right.
He's the one that's going to pay me.
Well, I mean, and who knows, with these players, obviously they have agents, but they say, okay, we're going to ask for this. And if they offer that, we'll go with it. If it's within, these figures, we'll go with it. Right. I don't know. But regardless, I think that goes for anybody.
Not so if you're mad at a player because they're making all this money, go back and ask. It's just like if when you look at a big business, so you look at how many people say, oh, that little place on the corner, the local mom and pop place is terrible. I'm never going back there.
Yeah.
They get my order wrong every time I go. But they'll keep going to McDonald's, even though McDonald's never gets their order right either.
It's true.
And now it's like, why are we blaming this group? Oh, I'm not going to watch this because the two highest paid teams. Okay, but they did what they had to do to win. And look at this. Some of the guys that they paid the most money for weren't even there, or they weren't even great performers.
Well,
so
look at Shohei Ohtani. He was like what? 0 for 19, 18, 0 for 18, 0 for 19 with no runners on base.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I think Houston Mitchell was like, somebody needs to tell Dino Ebel and the other guy.
Convince him, McCullough.
That they're runner. Yeah, thank you, McCullough. That they are runners, that they're on base. Have them stand as close.
That there's men on base.
Right.
Yeah, they stand close to the bag, so it appears like there's somebody.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. And then Teoscar Hernandez, he was 0 for 18 until that game 6, where he finally, got 2 hits. And obviously, he's there for a 1-year deal, $23.5 million. They need to, Dodgers, you need to extend him. We need Teoscar beyond 2024. But I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand why, if you look beyond all the financial stuff, all that stuff, this is a matchup that's going to be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be, I mean, like I said, you're going to have, for the first time ever, 2 players who hit 50 plus home runs in a regular season. Ohtani 54, Judge had 58. And they're pretty well matched too. When you look at who they have, you've got Judge, Stanton, and Soto. They're not in the lineup the same as, Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. But you've got those 3, and the Dodgers have those 3. And then you have, but like the bullpens. And so when you look at it, I don't think that there's any real clear cut, oh yeah, they're going to run away with this, or this team's going to run away. I think it's going to be a good series.
Well, they seem evenly matched.
Yeah.
Both teams have some pitching issues.
Right.
And then, and that's where I felt like, though, that like the Guardians felt overmatched a lot of times, and it didn't take much for the Yankees to overmatch them, because it wasn't like until later in the series that Judge got going. Stanton had been going the whole time, but it took Judge a little while to get going. Juan Soto really wasn't having a blowout series.
Well, and you think about, look at who the National League Championship Series MVP is. Tommy Edman, who hadn't played baseball for most of the season, was rehabbing from a broken wrist, and gets traded to the Dodgers, and he was playing in center field. Then Miguel Rojas is injured, so he plays shortstop. And it's just not, this is a guy they got at trade deadline, and he makes $4 million. Yeah, for us, $4 million, that's a lot. But when you look at who's in the lineup, and it's Tommy Tanks, as they call him, who is the MVP. And that is the kind of stuff you need. Is it doesn't always have to be the big name guy that's going to be the MVP, because you need that spark. And in that first game against the Mets, the Dodgers didn't hit any home runs, and they beat them 9-0. Right. So I think it's going to be a good series. And for the people that are like, I can't watch it, well, then don't watch it, but you're going to miss out. And don't say that you're a baseball fan, because you missed out on classic baseball.
Yeah, of all the teams and some of the best players in baseball.
Right.
There was one text where this guy went on and goes, "Oh yeah, the rest of the league is just the minors for the Dodgers and the Yankees," and they start naming all these players, and it's like Juan Soto went to a World Series with the Washington Nationals.
Yes.
And they didn't buy him in the sense of that they paid a lot of money for him to get him in New York.
Yeah.
They traded for him.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not like they spent millions and millions of dollars. Even with Shohei, I know how much his contract is, but he's one guy. There's a lot of guys out there. So you tell me, the more money you spend, then the Angels should be in the World Series every year, just based on how much they pay 2 players.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not even what's going on. And the thing like this, like you said, $4 million, Well, Mookie makes what, 30 something? Freddie makes 30 something. Teo makes 20 something. He made 4 million. These are the guys that you need to be standing up to make those things. That's where, like in 1988, we talk about the stuntmen.
Yeah.
Those were the guys. Maybe they're not the MVPs, but they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Or they did such a good job that it took pressure off of the big name players. So they can do that. Like I said, Shohei Ohtani, he got in there. He did everything he had to do to get the team to the playoffs. And he's been okay during the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been great with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing that is the most interesting part of it all, is that, that people don't look at it. It's like, well, who's going to come out of this? Kike Hernandez every year is every time he plays in the playoffs. I mean, he's no Mickey Mantle. He's no Willie Mays. These guys hit, 18 home runs, and they only played in the World Series. They never played in a division series or a championship series. They only played in the World Series, because up until the mid 60s, there were no divisions. There was American League and National League. And at the end of the season, the top two teams played, period. Baseball was already over by now.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day. Even in 1977, 78, they were finishing now comparatively.
Yeah. Just going back to this matchup, it's 43 years since I know we mentioned that they have played in the World Series. But it is the first time that the number one seeds have met in the World Series in 11 years. It was always wild cards were always in there. And it's also the first time in the top 5 in payroll have met in World Series in 6 years. So it's not like this is happening every year. And I guess if it did happen every year, then yeah, you get bored with it, right? Like, they're playing again. But this is a treat for baseball fans, right? Because baseball fans are long-suffering fans. They just are. Like, we are long-suffering. We sit through games that we know that your team isn't going to come back from, but you still have hope that they're going to score. They're, that one hit, that one, they're going to do something. And then even if your team wasn't in the World Series, but you had a matchup like this, and obviously I'm a Dodger fan, so I love this. But even so, if it was, I don't know, another, this, say, a classic matchup of two other teams, then I would still watch, if it still had the same makeup of what we're going to be seeing coming, starting with the World Series in Game 1. The same superstars. I mean, look at the rosters, too. I mean, look at the potential Hall of Famers on the Dodgers and the Yankees that are playing. And and when you say classic, like all those names I mentioned before, like Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth and Jackie Robinson and Sandy, they're in the Hall of Fame, right? They're there. And now we get a modern version of that. So like what baseball fan in their right mind wouldn't want to watch this? And plus, in Japan, there's like some show, like, I don't know, that's going to premiere, supposed to premiere during the World Series. It's getting pushed back until after the World Series. Because,
I saw that.
Internationally, obviously MLB wins, but baseball wins.
Right. And that's the thing that, like I said, I don't get it, why people they just, and that's what it becomes. You know what? If you just say, I hate the Yankees, I hate the Dodgers, I don't care who wins. If you hope both teams lose, fine. But you're missing the whole thing that this is one season. And all the teams that you think, every team that was on that list I mentioned earlier had been to a World Series in the 2000s, with the exception of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And they're like, oh, the Pittsburgh Pirates are just the minor league team for the Yankees and the Dodgers. Yet Garrett Cole, who started as a Pirate,
Right.
went to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that Houston is also they're just a minor league team for Houston as well? All these bigger teams, come on. They go where they're going to go, and they're going to pay whatever they're going to pay them. Pittsburgh fans are already wondering how long before Paul Skeens leaves.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a genuine question, right?
What does that say? Does that talk about the league and the problems there, or is it a spotlight on the owners there, that it's easy to see that they already know they're going to give him up. They'll trade him at a point where they might have to pay him more money.
Well, and I think it's an indictment of the owners. I mean, we saw what happened in Oakland, and now the owner, John Fisher, I mean, he's trying to raise like $500 million or something towards the stadium in Las Vegas. But the Guardians owners, they're worth like
they're like the fifth
billion
richest in the league, they said. I
mean,
read.
I say billion, but I don't know. That sounds like a lot, but it
has to be billions, or else they would own a team. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, and yes, they have low payroll, but then we also heard this last week that the Rockies are going to cut payroll, and they've done nothing. And it's like, and the fans, they still come out to the ball game, but are they still going to come out? Charlie Blackmon's not there anymore. There's no song to sing when he comes up to bat.
And Chris Bryant, who could have been the heir apparent, is not.
And so what are they doing? And they own a baseball team, and they're not good owners.
No, and I think that as fans, when Frank McCourt owned the Dodgers still went to the playoffs. But he was a terrible owner, and people stopped going to games.
Mm-hmm.
They, everybody stopped. People weren't buying their tickets. You could go on like StubHub and those and get great tickets for like pennies on the dollar compared to what they were, the actual cost were. And which was great for people who never went, but they saw a dip in the revenues, and that opened up McCourt's eyes that, hey, the fans spoke in that case. But for the most part, it's obvious that people don't care because they still go, whatever the cost is. And good product, bad product, except for Oakland, except for some other teams out there that the White Sox obviously had a tough year. People are still going. Over 4 million people went to see the Dodgers play. A lot of that was the Shohei bump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So the two best teams made it. The two best teams, yeah, you know what? Where did they buy? I'm sorry. Both of them they have high payrolls. And the guys that they're paying, Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, but it's Tommy Edmonds, it's Max Muncy, who got on base like 12, 13 times. Kike Hernandez, even Teoscar, Will Smith. They're not making, when you go, position by position, some of these positions, are making more than others, but others are making far less. it maxes, it balances out. And then the Dodgers and their issues with their pitching, the Yankees have pitching issues too. There's going to be a lot to be said. And if it's any indicator as to when you look at the excitement and the drama between the two, the Dodgers-Mets series was a little more exciting because there was a lot more runs scored.
Yes.
The Dodgers scored more runs than anybody had in a series like that ever.
Like 46.
Yeah, 46 or 47 runs scored. And it wasn't like they were close games. The closest game was probably the 7-3 game. It was only within 4. But the Dodgers beat they either shut them out or beat them by it had double-digit runs scored, with the exception of the 2 games they lost. And in the 2 games they lost, they still scored like 6 runs.
Yeah.
They normally would win that game.
Right.
The game 2, that was a little bit tougher, but they still scored 3 runs. And, they shut out the Mets in 2 of them. And despite the 10-5 score in that game 6, the Mets were never really in that game.
Yeah.
Although they did leave like 13 or 14 runners on base. So it could have been a much different game.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that most of the pitchers in there at one point or another had most fans sitting on the edge of the seat. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I think there was one game.
Daniel Hudson, I think.
No.
That he started off like Kopech. He couldn't get the ball.
Yes.
It's like, and it wasn't a matter of like he was trying to be too precise and paint a corner or something like that. He just couldn't get the ball over the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was one game. I think it was versus the Padres. And I don't remember which game was the last game. I think I cleaned my whole kitchen because I couldn't sit down, but I had the game. So I'm watching it, but I just couldn't, that's how I feel. I always feel when the Dodgers are in the playoffs, because they won that last game 10-5, but I still was like, insurance runs. We got to get some insurance runs just because we need some more runs.
It's funny because we were watching the game, and I said it was 7 to 7-3, I think. At 7-3, I told Blanca, I said, that's fine. I said, but we need more.
Yeah.
We need insurance runs. She's like, how many insurance runs? I said, we need like 10 runs. Yeah. I said that we may not need that many to win, but that's when I'm going to feel comfortable with it.
Right. Because I don't know if you did the same thing, but I'm trying to remember who was pitching. It might've been, I don't know if it was Hudson anyway. And it looked like it probably was. It's like, are they going to load the bases here? Okay. If they load the bases, the Dodgers will still be up a run, if they say hit a grand slam, those
was that like Evan Phillips?
Yes. Evan Phillips. That's right.
He walked like 2, he gave up a base hit, walked a couple.
It was Evan Phillips. So I was thinking, I was like, all right, so if the bases are loaded and they give up a grand slam, we're still ahead. And but you think of all these different scenarios. So you're never comfortable or relieved until that game is over I guess the series, really. You're never comfortable until the series is over and your team wins. I think with the owners, just going back about the owners real quick, your fans expect, and especially Yankee fans and Dodger fans, and I guess, either Mets, wherever you're in the big city, the big market teams, but really any team, you should expect for your owners to get the best players. regardless if you are in Milwaukee or you're in Arizona, wherever you are, right? You should expect, your fans expect the best product on the field. And so for the owners to have all this money and not spend it on, and obviously it doesn't always happen, like Garrett Cole. I know that the Angels thought, oh, well, he's going to come back. He's a Orange County guy, but he's always been a Yankees. He was a Yankees fan from the time he was a kid. He always wanted to play for the Yankees. So, and that's where he went. But I think that for like the Dodgers, there's expectation that they will be in the playoffs, and that not just that they will be in the playoffs, but that they will win the championship, that they will win their division. They will win, they'll win. And so in order to do that, you have to spend money.
You do. But it's not just about the spending money.
Yeah.
You have to, because like I said, if that's the case, the Angels spent a lot of money and they haven't been to the World Series.
True.
Since 2002. They've got two of the highest paid players in baseball. They're not even going to the playoffs. They hold the longest drought right now in MLB. The other thing that has to happen is that they get surrounded with the right players. So it's not just them. Why did the Dregs made some moves that you would say, oh, you traded away Juan Soto? Why would you do that? And did it hurt them? No. They built a team. They put some right guys and had the right attitude. Unfortunately, because the Dodgers are their end-all be-all, that's what stopped them. If they just took the Dodgers as another team, they might have won that series. But because that's their World Series, and unfortunately, that's kind of what they've said. They've said it out loud. That's their fate. Right? So the Dodgers have the one thing that they have is they built a good system where they have some depth. Pitching depth got really challenged this year. And you look at all the guys that they have that you expect to be well that are not playing.
Right.
Because they're injured. Just even from like Tyler Glasnow, a guy who would be on that list of Hall of Famers that's not playing, Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
You can't put him on the list because he's not going to be on the roster. But if you look at just the roster guys,
yeah,
he's the surefire. He's the one out of all of them right now that's absolutely going.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at just like the World Series roster, yeah. But if you look at just
I don't want to, the guys who are going to actually play.
Yeah.
If you look at other guys who are there on the bench and that stuff, the Dodgers, I think, have the advantage of guys that are a little higher caliber players that aren't available than what the Yankees have. But when you look at it, it's a good matchup. We've got two managers who faced off each other in college.
Yeah. Right.
Dave was at UCLA. Boone was at USC.
Mm-hmm.
They played, Dave knows what it's like to play versus the Yankees. 2004, they overcame the deficit to finally win a World Series. He was there. He had a stolen base that was not trivial, but was
pivotal part.
Pivotal. Thank you. That was the word. It all had pivotal, trivial. There was a V.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and these two teams used to be on the, in the same area. There's a lot of history, even without them playing each other in the World Series. But for the 12th time, we're going to see these two teams come up. And I think for the Yankees, it may change how they go about things going forward. I think they're definitely going to push to re-sign Soto.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Although it would be cool if he'd come and play right field for the Angels.
It would be cool.
But and then Trout in left field, and then figure out somebody else in center field. I don't know who yet.
Yeah, you can think about that.
But if Jordan Scott Adele is going to be playing better next year, maybe he could be the center fielder. That's where he was started out at, and he's still young enough to be able to do that. But they're gonna spend some more money, because I think Steinbrenners are gonna say, I think our dad was onto something, and they're gonna spend the money that's needed to build that team and to be, a yearly, to be there just like the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's so much history with teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers. Obviously, even the Giants, but those New York teams. And there's an expectation, when you look at who played for the Dodgers, who played for the Yankees. There's just it's history. Those two teams are baseball history. And for them to be in the baseball classic is fitting. 43 years later from the last time.
It is. So we got that to look forward to. I'm sure that that MLB and what's it on Fox?
Yeah.
Are both hoping it goes 7 games, and it's 7 exciting close games, one in extra innings and zinnings every night that it's on. All games start at 8:08 Eastern time, so 5:08 Pacific time, and we'll see if they make it. They're going to make it. They're going to play into November. If it's not a sweep, or less than, if it's 5 games or less, I think, as I saw, they'll be just staying in October. So your prediction?
Oh. I hate these predictions. Obviously, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I'm going to say, I hope it doesn't come back to bite me, but Dodgers in 6.
All right. I thought you'd go with 6. You want to say 5, but
no, I don't want to say 5, because I don't think that I mean, it could be 7, but I'm going to go. I'm going with the Dodgers.
I think the Dodgers will win it as well, because I think that two things. Number one, they have to.
Yeah, no, they have no choice.
They really don't, because they've come so close. They're in the playoffs every year.
Yes.
And this is the closest they've been since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's talking about, are you the Braves of the 90s, where you can go all the time, but you can't win anything? And you paid all this money and you can't win anything? And they really need that, because otherwise they become just like any other team.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares if you made it to the playoffs if you can't ever get to the big game?
Right.
And that is, I think, where the Dodgers are. The Yankees, it has been, quite a while since they've been there. There's not as much pressure on them. I think that the Dodgers have the better team overall, and I think that their pitching staff is more tested because of the bullpen games, because they don't really have but a couple of real starters. They don't know, Flaherty had a really bad game. Yamamoto had a couple of good games, but I mean, his first Mets game was bad. Second Mets game, he was awesome. Walker Buehler probably was better. Problem for him was there was an error, bad call in there, and that ended up, I think, kind of taking him out. But it's been the bullpen has been the MVP for most of that series. More than, and then looking at Tommy Edman, looking at some of these other guys, Can Pajes, step in there. Will Kiermaier be on there? Will he become an unsung hero like Edman?
Yeah.
Kike, we know what he can do. Max, I mean, there's a lot of guys. Teoscar could, turn it around and become. I mean, he finally got a couple of hits. His only hits were in Game 6,
That's
hits
it.
in the whole series.
That's right. I think Joe Davis said on one of the broadcasts about the Dodgers, they had they manufactured the underdog story. And I don't think that it was manufactured. I mean, I think obviously at the beginning of every season and as the season goes, there's always odds. I guess you can put odds on anything in Las Vegas. And the Dodgers were always at the top to win the World Series. But that's just numbers. You're not looking at what's on the field, who's on the IL, what's happening to their pitching staff, who, Betts broke his hand, breaking his hand when he got hit by that pitch. There's so many variables that go into sports, but go into baseball. And I don't think that the Dodgers being an underdog is manufactured. For me, I think that's the best way for this Dodgers team to look at themselves as the underdogs. And people say they're never the underdogs because look at their payroll. They're the Los Angeles Dodgers. But that's not the point. The point is look who they're putting the product out on the field. Right? It's not every night. It's not Freddie Freeman isn't playing first base every night in NLCS. Max Muncy's playing first base. Where did Max Muncy come from? I mean, he almost didn't make it back to baseball. You got Chris Taylor, who, maybe a lot of people are like, I don't think he should be on the roster, but he's versatile. And the same thing. He was a Mariner? And nobody knew who he was. And
that's been the one thing that they've been able to do. They took somebody who was not really great. He got drafted by Baltimore, went to the Mets, and wasn't that great. And now he is a Dodger legend in Justin Turner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so I don't think that it's a manufactured. And I think if the Dodgers with that and their attitude of what Kike Hernandez said on live TV, they got to go with that. And that's the mentality that they have to have. And I think, too, like you said, and Kike Hernandez has said this, too, every game is one game. Every game is elimination game, as you said. And so every game we're fighting to get to the next game. So I think that's a good mentality for this Dodger staff to have, regardless if, that Ohtani's on there and Betts and Freeman and, I mean, you just mentioned getting somebody and bringing them up, and Brent Honeywell. I mean, he didn't have that great game, but he helped save the bullpen for the Dodgers in that Dodgers loss against the Mets. He was a Pittsburgh Pirate. And they got him from the Pirates, and he had a 4 ERA. I mean, he wasn't great. And
well, if they got him and then paid him $25 million a year, then he'd be part of the problem.
Right.
That's the whole thing. It's all about all this little bit of money that are not going to everybody. It's not like everybody on the field from either team is making $30 million a year.
No.
And that's where people are just stupid. But I could tell you this, the Dodgers making it to the World Series is, like I said, to me, I've already got a team that I root for that never makes it to the World Series. So I was ready. I'm done with the Dodgers. I was going to go next year, and any game that I go to, I'm going to get a hat from the other team or a T-shirt from the other team. I'm going to root for the other team. I'll be just like about, a quarter to a half of the stadium, depending on who it is. I'm not going to go to, I'm not going to go and root for them anymore. And I was like, they got to do something. I grew up with them. And I grew up with the Angels being exactly where they are now, never winning anything. But to me, it was like, they've got to start doing something, because who cares what a great system they have if they can't ever win the big game? It's like, in football, if you can't ever make it to the Super Bowl, you root for your teams, you pick whoever you pick, and you need to stay with them. You can't be, but like in a World Series like this, it forces you. In 1996, the Braves and the Yankees played in the World Series. Exactly. I went out because at that point I'm like, whoever I'm going to root for somebody, I'm going to root for them. And I went out and I got a hat. I still have it somewhere in my hat collection. I don't wear it, but I have it. And what team did I pick? Do you know?
I would say the Braves.
Oh no.
But I just
no.
But well, first I'd say that, but then I'd think better of it and think you have a Yankees hat.
I do have a Yankees hat because the Braves, and honestly, there were things about the Braves that players I liked on the Braves.
Yeah.
But no. I couldn't.
That's why I said I'd say it,
Braves.
But then think better of it.
Yep.
They're a team. There are certain teams you just can't, you just never can. You can't root for them. I think, though, it's interesting, too, is I know this is baseball, but, Lakers, classic matchups, Lakers and the Celtics. I mean, that's classic.
Right.
And, in football, I don't even know what the classic matchups would be, but
the classic matchups would be just like last week, Lions and the Vikings. Better.
Oh, yeah.
Bears and Packers.
Oh yeah, Bears and Packers.
Teams like that be like when the Jets were good, Jets Dolphins.
Oh yeah, Jets Dolphins. Yeah. So I think every sport, and even in hockey, but I'm not going to go there because I don't know. But every sport has those classic matchups, and we as baseball fans are getting treated to that, and we should be thankful.
And that'll do it for this edition of the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast. We will be back as soon as we have a World Series winner. So World Series starts up tomorrow, Friday, and first two games in LA, and then there'll be a day off. So you'll have Friday, Saturday, off on Sunday, and then back at it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from the house that Babe built, the third version of the house that Babe built.
Like 3.0 or what, 2.0.
Anyway, new the latest Yankee Stadium, and then if needed, they'll come back to LA for games 6 and 7. And all we can hope for is a great World Series with the two best teams and some of the best players, definitely some of the marquee players in the league. So make sure you check us out on our social media, Sibling Rivalry BB without the A, on Twitter.
And on Instagram and Facebook at Sibling Rivalry BB with the A.
Website is siblingrivalrybb.com. I don't know about you, but I liked the National League Championship T-shirt. The hat was okay. I like the Division Series hat better.
Yeah.
But those are available now, and I think there's a deadline on those National League Championship shirts till the 29th. So next week That's what I saw in Fanatics. So if you don't get it, chances are you'll find it someplace else. Don't worry about it. But if you're going to get one, go get it now and get it through our website, through the Fanatics link at siblingrivalrybb.com. All right, enjoy the World Series. Don't miss any of it. Don't be a hater. Just be a baseball lover and enjoy what could be one for the ages. We'll see you as soon as the World Series is over. Don't forget to swing away.